Imagine playing a Barbarian that can lock down your enemies or cripple them with poison, but still deal damage on your turn. And you can do it as early as level 3 without multiclassing and without any specific magic items. It's all built in with today's homebrew subclass, the Path of the Blighted Seed. We'll be breaking down its features using my signature action cam, showcasing its gameplay loop of turning your HP into power. And by the end, you'll have a cool new Barbarian character that you can bring to your next D&D session. Hello and thank you for being here, and welcome to My Wife Is, the MC, where we take pop culture to pen and paper. I'm V, and I've been running and designing D&D homebrew for over 10 years. The Path of the Blighted Seed is themed after a parasitic relationship between the Barbarian and an eldritch plant. Its features are inspired by Azuma Michinaga from Kamen Rider Geats. So I'll be showing this show's footage to illustrate some points, but rest assured that this video doesn't need any prior knowledge of the show. Now, to make sense of the subclass's features, we'll first need to create a character. This is my action cam. We'll be using this to illustrate the Blighted Seed's features. During character creation, the goal is to build a level 1 Barbarian that can take a lot of punishment. Starting with your background option, take one that improves your constitution and strength. Tough is a great fit for this subclass, so all in all, the former background is surprisingly a good choice. For species, most options are okay, but I like having more feats to play with. So if you're like me, take human and choose savage attacker for your origin feat. But if you want to optimize, the orc with its adrenaline rush and relentless endurance works very well with a Blighted Seed. For your stats, I'd highly recommend investing in constitution. This gives an extra HP buffer for your subclass features, and it's used for its save DCs as well. Using point buy and your background bonuses, the stats look like this. 15 to strength, 14 to dexterity, 16 constitution, 10 intelligence, 12 wisdom, and 8 in charisma. That odd number in strength will even out when we pick a feat later at level 4. Now let's jump to Barbarian level 3 and check out its core features. Accursed Shroud is the core feature of this subclass. When you activate Rage, you channel the seed's power in the form of a magical but profane shroud that forms over you. You determine how this shroud looks like, so go wild. So imagine the seed with the new sprouting vines and roots that wrap around you when you rage. Of course, this isn't all cosmetics. Deadwood Claws enhances your unarmed strikes to 1 DC slashing or piercing damage. So if your shroud were scraps of armor covered in thorny foliage, think of these as branches or roots that form into claws. This serves as a nice little fallback for when you find yourself without a weapon. But the claws have a hidden potential to them that I'll reveal later when we get to level 4. You probably have an idea of what that is, but for now, let's move on to the other level 3 benefits. Blighted Sap is a reliable bit of necrotic damage that you can deal when you hit a creature once per turn. It's a number of d4s equal to your rage damage bonus, so this scales as you reach higher levels. While most subclasses would stop here, I always see if I can get something more out of the subclass's theme. Accursed Cultivation is my answer to that. This is the part that grants power from your pain, because it adds additional effects at the cost of your own HP. You can do this without taking an action when you activate your rage or as a bonus action on your subsequent turns. Using this ability reduces your HP by the same amount of necrotic damage you dealt from using Blighted Sap. And the text deliberately doesn't use the term damage to make sure it can't be resisted by conventional means. When you pay this blood price, you can choose between one of 2 options that let you control the fight. Coiling Mantle lets you grapple the target as part of the attack. But the Blighted Seed feature does this with a bit of a twist. It conjures several grasping vines and roots, letting you grapple the target without using any of your free hands. That means you can use your 2-handed weapons or equip a shield while still maintaining the grapple. This is great for positioning, yes, but also, the 2024's version of the grappled condition now imposes disadvantage on attack rolls against anyone except the grappler. But this effect has a size limit, and a particularly strong or particularly slippery enemy will be hard to pin down. You can choose Venom Surge instead to force the target to make a Constitution saving throw. This isn't exactly poison as the name might imply, and that's by design because a lot of creatures are immune to the poison condition in 5e. Instead, an affected creature has its attack and damage rolls reduced by 1d4. These effects don't last forever, of course. This is balanced by a short duration, ending at the start of your next turn. So if you want to keep inflicting debuffs or controlling enemy movement, you have to pay the HP toll every turn. Putting it all together, here's how your turn would look like. You activate Rage as a bonus action to conjure your Accursed Shroud. You then move in and attack a creature with either your weapon or your Deadwood Claws. When you hit with this attack, you deal an extra 2d4 necrotic damage thanks to Blighted Sap. Since you activated Rage this turn, you can use Accursed Cultivation with no action required. But on future turns, this will require a bonus action. Using it reduces your HP by the same amount of necrotic damage you dealt. But when you do so, you can use either Coiling Mantle to grapple the target or use Venom Surge to debilitate its attacks. This is only the beginning as you walk the path of the Blighted Seed. But before we move on to the next subclass feature, let's talk about how to optimize your ASI choice at level 4. I've been talking about the level 4 feat for a while now, and you probably already guessed what I'm gonna take. When you hit level 4, I highly recommend you get the Grappler feat. This synergizes so well with Deadwood Claws. The feature already increases your unarmed strike damage, and taking the feat lets you grapple a target as part of hitting it with an attack. And this gets even better when you hit level 5. When you get extra attack, you can grapple 2 targets without replacing any of your attacks. During your turn, you can hit a target using your unarmed strike and then grapple it as part of the feat's punch and grab benefit. And in the same turn, you can attack a second creature and use the Coiling Mantle option to grapple another target. And thanks to the Grappler feat's fast wrestler benefit, you can move them around without any speed penalty. As a cherry on top, this bumps up your strength score to a 16. This works even if you prefer to use Venom Surge, since this gives you a means to do some battlefield control at the same turn you apply the debuff. Let's go back to the features and jump to level 6 with Profane Germination. This feature grants 2 small but meaningful improvements to your Accursed Shroud, and one of them is specifically to protect you against the most common ways to shut down a Barbarian. The first benefit grants resistance to necrotic damage. This is a cursed plant after all, and it'd be a little weird if your body didn't adapt to its profane nature. Now, we all know that conventional barbarians can get easily shut down by mental saves. That means Hold Person, Dominate Person, Charm Person, any of those can easily take you out of the fight. The second benefit addresses this, but it won't come for free. Blighted Seed grants a bonus to your Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma saving throws equal to your Rage damage bonus. But to gain this benefit, you first have to use your Accursed Cultivation on your turn. Think of it like a small reward for feeding your HP to the Blighted Seed. This isn't as strong as the Berserker Barbarian's immunities, but that +2 to +4 bonus could really come in clutch. Now, typically this is the point in the video where I direct you to the link in the description to get the rest of the features. But the way the Blighted Seed grows is pretty exciting, so I'll risk some sales and reveal the features anyway. In exchange, could you do me a favor by liking the video and leaving it on in the background? Designing D&D subclasses like this takes a lot of work, so seeing it being worth your time and your like makes all that effort worth it. But before we get to level 10, I want to talk about optimized options you can take at level 8. Increasing your strength score by 2 bumps up your damage by a little bit, but more importantly, it increases your accuracy to activate Accursed Cultivation. Bumping up Constitution, on the other hand, gives you a buffer for the HP drain and increases your DC. If you want a more reliable way to restore HP mid-fight, the Durable feat has some decent synergy with this subclass. Unfortunately, it competes with the bonus action used by Accursed Cultivation. It also doesn't increase your modifier since it only increases your Constitution by 1. So unless you dump more stats during character creation to get a 17 to Constitution, I'd recommend taking any of the stat boosts instead. At level 10, you gain the Accursed Seedling feature. Like a lot of the other features, this gives you 2 benefits. The first benefit expands your unarmed strike options with a new way to control the battlefield. By using the new Reel option, you can rope in targets if they fail a strength or dexterity save. On a failed save, you pull them 10 feet toward you. This lets you pull in ranged attackers into your space or reel in flying creatures out of the sky. You can even pull allies out of harm's way. Note that the wording here implies that you can also pull in objects. Like other Blighted Seed features, Reel uses your Constitution-based DC instead of the usual DC of other unarmed strike options. The second benefit is an extension of this, where you use Reel to pull in enemies that get within 15 feet of you. But this doesn't come for free.
Free? Nothing with me is ever free!
You first need to use Accursed Cultivation during your turn in order to unlock this reaction. Before we go to the Capstone feature, you have another ASI at level 12. The options I mentioned at the level 8 breakpoint still apply here, but you also have to consider that this tier of play typically involves more creatures that can shut you down. So consider taking the Resilient feat for Wisdom saving throw proficiency. This synergizes well with your Profane Germination feature, but unfortunately it does delay any of your bonuses to your DC or attacks. But it's still better than skipping your turn or becoming hostile to your allies. At level 14, you gain the Accursed Tree feature. It's a once per long rest feature that grants some very strong benefits for the duration of your rage. First is Otherworldly Veil, which gives you a nice THP buffer against your HP draining abilities. The second benefit improves your Deadwood Claws into a decent 2d4 weapon and increases your AC by 1 if you're not wielding a shield. While these features are mostly passive, the last benefit still maintains the theme of power for pain. The Accursed Interception benefit significantly improves the effects of Accursed Cultivation. Coiling Mantle now restrains your grappled target, letting you and your allies pile on. Meanwhile, Venom Surge now gives a Bane-like effect of a 1d4 penalty to saving throws until the start of your next turn. At this point, you're almost ready to run this at your next D&D game. After this last bit, you'll be good to go. One of the first things you should figure out is how the Blighted Seed fits in your campaign. And one way is defining what the Blighted Seed even is. Is it an undead plant that feeds on the lingering desires of the dead? Or is it a corrupting force whose very presence mutates the prime material? Perhaps it's the source of the very creatures you'll be fighting in the campaign, like aberrations or monstrosities. Regardless of what it is, it should probably have a strong connection with death or suffering, especially since its features feed on your HP. Once you figure that out, you now have to determine your Barbarian's relationship with it. Those who walk the path with a Blighted Seed often do so unwillingly. Perhaps you were buried underneath the Accursed Tree, coming back to some semblance of life after its seed took root within you. Or maybe you knew of its accursed existence, but a moment of desperation forced you to consume its corrupting fruit. But if the Blighted Seed is somehow sentient, what if it simply chose you to be its avatar? There are shades of a Warlock pact here, but the key difference is the character's unwillingness in the relationship. More importantly, your character's goals need to be strong enough to even use the Blighted Seed's power. Why is your character willing to feed their life force to this entity and gain its profane strength? Is it an overwhelming desire for vengeance? Are they on a mission that's much more important than their own life? Or is the power simply too tempting to give up? These are just broad strokes, of course. When you answer these prompts, the rest will come to you. You can always take it a step beyond the conventional Barbarian as well, like a former druid who bonded with a corrupting entity, or the patron who once consumed their warlock, only to have an identity crisis after assuming their identity. But of course, whatever backstory you come up with, I highly recommend polishing it up with your DM. I'm quite proud of this subclass, so I'd love to hear your backstories and builds in the comments. Remember to check the link in the description to get your copy of the Blighted Seed Barbarian. And while you're there, do check out our memberships. You'll gain access to our exclusive Discord where you can talk to me or other like-minded folks. You also get huge discounts to our shop and access to some member-exclusive subclasses. Now, if you're a fan of Kamen Rider Geats, I made a homebrew that lets you make an entire campaign inspired by the series. You can check it out right here. But before you go, let's invite MC to shout out our members.
Hello! I'm MC, the Mallard Quinn. And let's give a special shout out to these Mallard Royal Guards. William Cozart, Elderlight, Tommy Kamen Rider 88, Mr. Phantom, Gamer Gaming, Storm Starshine, Bryant LW, Coinop 1989, KV, Piku, and Cosplay Battle. If you've made it this far, know that we highly appreciate you sticking around. Remember to subscribe if you like D&D Homebrew, cause V's got a lot of stuff lined up for the second quarter of 2026. Until then, V and I hope you have a great day ahead.